Welcome everyone to today's video, which is extraordinary. This is another discovery of a circular structure, which Plato calls concentric circles with bridges, and it is also probably the sixth circular supporting structure, dating back to the time of Atlantis. Those who regularly watch my videos on YouTube already know that Atlantis, like the biblical temple, is our entire Earth. And although science is constantly searching for the sunken Atlantis, or even considers it a myth, the truth is that Atlantis is still under our feet. We can consider the texts of the Emerald Tablets, where Thoth lies on long-buried Atlantis and gazes at the stars, as proof. Is it possible to see stars from the bottom of the sea? And where are Hercules' pillars actually located? Probably in the now forever buried and still concealed existence of the port of Herculaneum. The biblical flood ends with the appearance of dry land. The water has receded. The sinking of Atlantis and the biblical flood are incredibly similar. And it wasn't just water that caused the destruction. Let's take a look at a find that makes me very happy. We will also compare it with previous finds so that you can see how similar they are. The find is located in the middle of the Australian territory in a very inhospitable area. When you look around, it may seem as if several colors have been spilled here. Some areas are limestone and sandstone, some are rocky and blackened. In many places, bodies of water have been preserved. Strips of limestone and sand stretch from north to south, but between them there are completely different colors. Let's take a look at how this area has changed over the years. To do this, however, you need to work with a timeline, which you can only get by installing the Google Earth application. And here we have the timeline. My laptop is a bit slow, so we'll have to be patient. In order to display more images over time on the timeline, we need to use a lower level of detail. Sometimes images appear that Google Earth apparently uses for masking. It's a shame, but I'm glad that these images and depth scans are slowly being released. However, you will not encounter these images in the online version. In these images, notice how bodies of water appear and disappear. The area where the circular structure is located was originally underwater. The water in this area has no inflow. It is probably groundwater that causes the water level to change. Here we see what may be a salt marsh. The circular structure is not visible here. This may be due to sedimentation or Google Earth camouflage. You can see how the images jump here, but here is the area underwater. And the current state. Let's explore this place. There are a large number of lines around the circle, which we could consider to be paths if the place were not so remote. However, we will look at them in a moment. So what do you think? Circles and bridges. Absolutely unbelievable. And perhaps someone is asking, is Burning Man held here like in Nevada? Certainly not, but the circle in Black Rock Desert also has its origins. But now I'm going to highlight the light and dark areas. There's something embedded in that stone. Can you see it there? It looks more like printed electronic connections. Interestingly, other concentric circles are faintly visible, significantly shifted. This structure was thrown from its original location by an unknown gigantic force. But let's look at the geometry of what is located in the annulus. Let's start from the center, or what used to be the center of the circle. Take a look at these two shapes. Today, similar structures can be found in abundance along the coastline, serving as harbors and breakwaters. Here, we have them in the Australian outback. In the middle, you can still see the imprint of a well-preserved supporting structure. Everything that was here was imprinted in stone. These were all buildings and streets that are being built today, not only on the American continents. Everything is rounded and has its own distinctive pattern, reminiscent of printed electronic circuits. Why? The answer is simple and bizarre at the same time. But see for yourself how new cities are being built, and how machines are digging deeper and deeper into the ground. And that's not counting the limestone hills that are disappearing due to mining, with new cities springing up in their place. The same pattern of rounded roads and squares shaped like butterfly antennae. Don't believe it? But how could such destruction actually have occurred? But it is better to ask, where did such an enormous amount of water disappear to after the biblical flood? I am convinced that it has not disappeared. All the water petrified in an instant, and with it everything that was moving in the water, probably a change in the Earth's resonance, along with other factors. Look at the world's mountain ranges. They look like giant petrified tsunamis. We can also find petrified aquatic animals in high mountain ranges.
The principle of everything is water, everything is from the water and returns to the water.
Yes, this Greek philosopher essentially explained, in other words, that water is the primordial substance of the entire world. These facts must always be kept in mind, and although I have repeated them many times in the past, repetition is the mother of wisdom, isn't that right? But as I mentioned, it wasn't just the biblical flood, and the Bible itself mentions another catastrophe. This event is mentioned in Psalm 97:5.
The mountains melted like wax before the face of the Lord, before the face of the Lord of all the earth.
This catastrophe most likely occurred after an event that led to the petrification of a large amount of water. To understand what the Bible describes correctly, you have to multiply everything by 1,000 to arrive at the true proportions. As you can see in the picture, everything seems to be blown away by intense heat. But let's take a quick look around. If you pay attention, you will discover a large number of square-shaped pools here. There are really a lot of them, and we will take a look at a few of them. Lines extend from some of these pools, as if they belonged to them. These are the remains of anchorage points for a global grid structure that supported the Earth's plates. Yes, those stone tablets that the Bible describes as Moses' tablets. The Bible describes that these tablets were coated with lime. The intense heat then burned the lime into hard stone, limestone. The imprint of the global grid structure can be found all over the world as natural paths, and is even used to build transport routes. Native Americans consider them sacred. Hundreds of these square pools are located on the North American continent. Some remained filled with groundwater, but others closed. Yes, even these used to be pools, remnants of the anchoring of the global structure to gigantic columns. However, limestone sealed them off. The enormous pressure of hot water, mud, and gases from below pushed the solid rock out through these openings like a piston. Today, we call these underground cracks and cavities karst caves. If we had the opportunity to dive deep beneath these lakes, we would probably encounter truly gigantic pillars of Hercules. True, many of them are destroyed. Most of them have fallen into a horizontal position, and practically all of them are trapped in limestone. But deep scanning allows us to see them. Can you see how nicely the mooring lines connect to the pool? And here he saw it very well. I think it's time to take a look at this handsome guy's brothers. Our first stop will be at the Florida Rotunda. I don't think I need to introduce the rotunda at length. It is incomplete, as one segment has collapsed. But I would wager that the circular supporting structure can be largely preserved beneath the surface. The geometry of the surroundings here resembles printed connections. Here is a reconstruction of what the rotunda might have originally looked like. The slabs were carved to create a perfect pattern with water channels. This is an example of Plato's stripes of land alternating with stripes of water. So they do not necessarily have to be concentric circles. Note that the entire circle is lined with a water channel. Where there used to be water, water is reappearing. The limestone is disappearing. The water channel around the perimeter has another circle, located in distant Bolivia. So let's move on to La Jolla. And here is the second brother of our circle in Australia. The water channel is still clogged with limestone, and plants thrive here thanks to the moisture. Note the still visible attachments between the channel and the ring. Almost nothing has happened in this area in recent years. Since the circle lies in an area rich in metals, especially lithium, it is possible that there are not enough reserves here to make mining profitable. Let's see how the circle has changed over the years. At the bottom, there are visible subsidence areas and a significantly damaged supporting structure. In 2022, groundwater seepage is visible. The limestone from the surrounding area has been partially cleared away, revealing further geometric patterns. In 2006, there is quite a lot of water in this area. It is possible that they are pumping out the water, but notice how they gradually broke off pieces of limestone to get deeper. However, it appears that the circular structure has not been preserved in its entirety, and the middle section has collapsed. This reminded me of a verse from the Bible, which says that the cities of kings have fallen. Let's move on, this time to Nevada, where the Burning Man Festival is held every year. Black Rock City. The photo was taken during the festival. But look at where the festival is held. Let's take a closer look at the whole situation. This picture was taken at a time when the area was deserted. You can see traces of the circular supporting structure. Vegetation is beginning to thrive in places where water seeps through. The entire circular structure is set in a pentagon. You can see it much better here. Notice the dark area below the circle, stretching almost from north to south, and that is probably why this area is called Back Rock. What is it? It is an area where this structure literally shifted under the immense pressure of molten rock, perhaps from this distant place. The Bible mentions basalt, and basalt has a high melting point of about 1,000 degrees Celsius to 1,300 degrees Celsius, which is 1,832 to 2,372 degrees Fahrenheit. This means that it could have endured this entire hot journey without major damage. Is Black Rock basalt? There are also scans and, what's more, gigantic pillars buried deep beneath the surface. Notice their enormous length, and I am only measuring the visible part. It seems that only fragments remain of some of the columns, while others show visible breaks. These lines are just traces left by the scanner. Now let's move on to the lithium mine in Argentina. So, we'll stop here because Google Earth has taken us to a mining town, but we need to go to the mountains. The Andes hide great secrets, and one of them is Salar de Olaroz, hidden in the mountains like a pearl. This image is from 2014, and the first exposed annulus appeared on the slope. However, if we zoom in, Google Earth covers everything up. We have to approach this differently. This is the current state of affairs, and the circle is constantly expanding. Among other things, another supporting structure is emerging. Everything is being uncovered in a salty and inhospitable environment because of lithium. Lithium is listed in Mendeleev's periodic table of elements, but it is not an element in the same way that salt is not native to Earth. Lithium was created by intense heat and radiation acting on metal. That is, on metal structures, in this case, a city that existed here a very long time ago. We will once again look at a detail of the city that has been partially preserved on a stone slab. This slab was released from its supporting structure by pressure and shifted several miles to the east. Look at the identical structure we saw in the Australian Circle. Everything was melted, petrified, and merged with the landscape. The board is still connected to the rest of the support beam. We started with this beauty, and it was actually because of it that this retro video was created. Did you like it? The Lost World was very strange and also very beautiful. We will definitely continue to search the world for further traces of the lost Atlantis. Atlantis is still with us.